Hi folks, today we are adding another panel to our collection. This time it is a front panel from a Sony unit, model STR DG710. This panel uses a VFD driver that we already know quite well, the PT6315. Even though we already have videos covering the PT6315, and also the UPD16315, which is essentially identical, there is always something new to explore. In this particular case, the keyboard matrix of the driver was not used. Because of that, we will implement our own method to read the panel buttons. The keyboard is based on two analog lines, and to handle the readings properly, we will use two timers. We will use timer 0 and timer 2 for the key reading process, and we will reserve timer 1 for the clock functionality. In this panel, the outputs dedicated to LED control, which are available on the driver, were not used. However, the functionality is still present in the code for anyone who wants to explore it. Before continuing, it is important to reinforce the safety precautions related to powering the panel. This is always a critical step when working with VFD displays. Even just the topic of key buzzes and timers is already enough to justify a longer and more detailed video. To animate the VFD, the first step was to identify all the segments. This was done using a simple test code. This time, instead of using an interrupt on pin 2 or pin 3 of the Arduino, we used a different approach. We connected a push button to pin 11 and implemented a cycle that keeps the state active until the button is pressed again. It is important to remember that this block of code should be commented out after use. It is only intended for the segment and grid identification phase. Once the segments and grids were identified, we created lookup tables. These tables allow us to display letters, numbers, and simple messages. Again, it is important to note that creating a full symbol library is not practical. This is because the segment order can change from one panel to another, which would make the library unusable in most cases. The animation sequence for the VFD starts by turning all segments on. After that, it displays a sequence of numbers. Then it moves on to a sequence of characters, skipping grid 0, grid 1, and grid 10. These grids contain predefined symbols, but they can still be used creatively in more advanced animations. For example, they include indicators like kilohertz, megahertz, decibels, left channel and right channel. To give a practical use to the two key buzzes, we implemented a clock example with the ability to set an alarm time. The first buzz, called AD1, contains 4 buttons. These buttons use resistor values of 470 ohms, 330 ohms, 220 ohms, and 0 ohms. The second buzz, AD2, contains 8 buttons. These use resistor values of 2.2 kiloohms, 1.5 kiloohms, 1 kiloohm, 680 ohms, 470 ohms, 330 ohms, 220 ohms, and 0 ohms. Each buzz uses a pull-up resistor connected to 5 volts DC. In this case, we used a value of approximately 2.67 kiloohms. This allows the signals to be read through ADC0 and ADC1 on the microcontroller. To understand the readings, we start with the resolution of the analog converter. We divide 5 volts by 1024 steps, which gives approximately 0.0048 volts per step. that is our voltage resolution unit. As an example, imagine pressing the last button on the AD2 bus connected to ADC1. In that situation, the total resistance becomes the sum of all resistors in that branch, which is approximately 6400 ohms. Applying the voltage divider formula, we get a voltage of about 3.5 volts. If we convert that back using our resolution unit, we obtain a value close to what we read from the analog input. This is how we determine the expected values used in the code for each button. For those who prefer not to go through the calculations, there is an easier option. In the code, there is a commented line that allows you to print the value read from the bus. By observing that value and adding a small margin, you can define a reliable detection range for each button. In practical terms, we used bus 1 to adjust the alarm hours and minutes. On bus 2, we control both the current time and the alarm time, and we also have the option to activate the alarm. These were the functions implemented in this example. Of course, these controls can be easily changed with small adjustments in the code, depending on the needs of your project. In this case, we intentionally used a larger number of buttons with assigned functions. The goal was to create a slightly more complex example, to better demonstrate the possibilities. If you look at the timing structure, you will notice that timer 0 is responsible for triggering the reading of one bus. At the same time, timer 2 is used to trigger the reading of the second bus. In practice, it would also be possible to use a single timer for both buses, since the variables used for each ADC channel are independent. Now, regarding the data connection, we follow the standard 3-wire interface. These are data in, clock, and strobe. It is absolutely essential to share a common ground reference between the PT6315 and the microcontroller, in this case, the Arduino. There is also an interesting detail in this panel. An additional integrated circuit from the TTL family was included, with the reference SN74HCT08. This chip acts as an interface between the original CPU and the PT6315. It is composed of 4 AND logic gates. In this design, only 3 of those gates are used. Since one of the inputs of each AND gate is held at a high logic level, the output simply follows the input signal. In other words, what goes in is what comes out. Most likely, this was done to adapt the signal levels, converting the original 3.3 volts logic from the CPU into a 5 volt compatible signal for the driver. Now let us look at the method used to power the panel. In this setup, we use two DC to DC converters. One converter steps 5 volts up to 24 volts. The other converter provides 5 volts to 5 volts, maintaining an isolated supply. The main power source is a single 5 volt supply. This supply is also used to power the filament, but with an adjustment. To reduce the voltage, we placed 3 diodes, type 1N4004, in series. Each diode creates a voltage drop of approximately 0.7 volts, reducing the filament voltage accordingly. It is worth highlighting that this display uses a very efficient phosphor, which is why this voltage reduction is necessary. As a general rule, when working with negative voltage drivers, all 3 power sources must be fully independent. In this case, We chose not to use the 5V to 5V converter for the filament. The filament current is approximately 0.19 amps, and using a direct supply helps reduce the load on the converter. However, this approach requires extra attention when establishing the ground reference between the panel, the driver, and the microcontroller. By applying all of these principles in practice, it becomes quite straightforward to bring this panel back to life. And the same method can be used with other similar panels, making this a very useful approach for future projects.